design. Why do I think that it's so important? Why do I think we should even be chatting about it? Well, I think that Scandinavian design is so unique and it really just has such an incredible flavor. And after living in Spain and then moving to Morocco and then going somewhere like Scandinavia, it completely changed the way that I put my home together. And there were so many secret things that I felt that the longer we were there, it was just like, oh, like I just understood why Scandinavians did things maybe the way that they did, or the mentality behind things. And there were just these things that they did so intuitively. And if you ask a Scandinavian, a lot of times they're like, oh, do we do that? You know, like they don't think about it. But as an outsider looking in, it was a little bit easier for me to say, yeah, I've never seen anybody do that before. And I think that's amazing. And some of these things are things that maybe we do all over the world. But for me, they were lessons that I learned while we were living there for 6 years in Copenhagen. And they had such an influence on me and an influence on how I create my own home. And I just thought that'd be really fun just to chat about. One of the things that I think that I learned more than anything else from Scandinavians was how to make almost absolutely nothing look like something. Scandinavians, I think they just nail minimalism. We're making some generalizations here, people, okay? So nobody get upset that we're generalizing here. I know that there's minimalists in every country. It's not that. It's just that Scandinavians just seem to have a knack for it. And they just have a way of having almost nothing in a space, and yet it feels like an art installation. It feels like something so amazing and something that just, you can't help but love it. And I think that the Scandinavians do an amazing job at that, and it's something that has stayed with me for a really long time. So even if you are not the type that wants to live in a minimalist house, I would say that I'm not actually a minimalist in so many ways, maybe compared to my mom, who is the ultimate maximalist. I'm definitely a minimalist, but there's all different places on that spectrum, and it really doesn't matter, right? It's really about finding what feels good to you. And I think that you can have these moments of what so many designers would call white space. That's what we would call it. Scandinavians are so good at playing with white space, and it's always good to just see and learn and ask yourself, do I need some white space in my home? Do I need some empty space? And sometimes you might come around and say, you know what? I don't want that much empty space in there. And when you rub up against those questions, they're really this moment of self-discovery. And whether you want to design your house exactly like the Scandinavians or not, you've now challenged your mind and challenged your perspective. And you may come out on the other side of it surprised by how you react to it. And I think that's why it's so fun to look at other styles and to always be learning from them. Oh, the Scandinavians just have such a knack for creating life in their interiors. I have to tell you, this is something that really challenged me. I remember when the photographer and stylist came to do my home, because even if you are a stylist and the magazine comes, they bring their own stylist. You don't style your own house for those shoots. So they came and they were styling up our home, and she kept going through the house and like messing things up, you know, and like that pillow got turned and I was like, you know how long I took to make that, you know, just right? And I think that's such a fun lesson that I really took away, especially the bedroom. That's still one place I have to say I still haven't gotten quite there. But the Scandinavians have this way of, they love the celebration of the life that we're living in our spaces. So even when they're photographing a room and they're creating these beautiful shots, they're trying to create a little bit of a mess. They realize that what makes a house a home is a little bit of messiness and the life and that infusion of life into a space. You might find that in some ways you take something away from it, and in other ways you're like, no, I'm gonna have my books closed. I don't want them open. I want the pillows perfect. No, I don't want them like that. And then and other things you might really just find that celebration is this sort of relief that you feel when you're allowed to be alive in your home and feel celebrated in that. I think that is so incredible, and I think that is an incredible life lesson that we should definitely always bring home with us. I did talk a little bit about the messiness, but we're not just talking about literally messing things up when you're staging them, but Scandinavians also like to create an actual mess. They will actually pull out towels, you know, to put out in the kitchen, and there's gonna be flour on the counters, and there's this mess, and it's all coming back to this idea that a beautiful home is centered around that life that you're living inside of it, and a mess is a part of that. So they'll take their shoes, and you know, there's a pair of shoes, you know, it's not just on your feet. No, we're gonna throw them down on the floor. I love so much of it, and it was such a moment of relief for me, and such a moment of realizing that I was allowed to live in my home. I think everybody's at a different place on your spectrum, and I think that there's this moment of forgiveness when we allow ourselves to be messy in our own space and to celebrate that that's part of our home, and making a home, it's all intertwined. And I think that that's really amazing, and that's something that I've really taken to heart and brought all the way back across the ocean with me, and all these years later, I think it's pretty cool. Oh, of course, so many of us have heard the term hygge. It's the direct translation that they try to say is that it's cozy, but there's so much more to coziness and hygge for the Scandinavians. It's really all about creating that perfect moment where you sit back and everything just feels right, and you're just having this like heaven on earth moment. And that's how they would define the word hygge. And so when I say cozy, they want more than that. They want the blanket over your lap and the cup. You know, it's like that perfect cup, and the coffee's just right, and your blanket's over your lap. And they really just know how to get cozy in their spaces. They use candles and firelight, and it's just dimming the lights and all those little tips and tricks to create coziness in a space. They just nail it. They just really get it. It's really difficult to have a cozy moment when you're on guard, just, you know, trying to be so perfect. And so it's all of these tips, I feel like they're kind of intertwined. It's the essence of life being displayed in your home, and giving yourself the freedom and the celebration of the imperfections, and how those imperfections are what actually create the perfect moments. Scandinavians definitely taught me how to appreciate light. And I don't mean like actual turning on the lights, because my mom always taught us guests are coming, so we run around the house. That was our job, was to run around the house and turn on the lights and light the candles. So I definitely grew up with that idea. I understood that. But the Scandinavians, now, they made me appreciate light. When you go 6 months without seeing the sun, light is very important to you. And I remember when we first got there, we went for a visit, and it was October, and at 3 p.m. it was already dark as night. And we were like, okay, this is gonna be a different world. And you feel sleepy in the winter because it's dark at 3 o'clock. And when you see the light, the appreciation that you have for light, and the way that Scandinavians build their homes so that you are connected directly to the light outside and bringing that in, that is something that I would say that's the #1 reason why I specifically bought this house, was because of all these windows all around us. And I knew after living in Scandinavia that I could never go back to living where I didn't have enough window light, and where I couldn't be directly connected to that light. because I realized how important that was, and that wasn't something I was gonna be able to detach myself from going forward. The light has a way of illuminating your life around you. You feel a connectedness to the sky and to the sun. It's just, I don't know, I probably sound crazy. I think I sound a little crazy. Scandinavians are not the only ones on the planet who have ever thought that nature was important and it's a way to be inspired by your home. But for me, it was something that really made a huge impression on me because it was something that Scandinavians constantly verbalized. It was something that they talked about and how important it was to them, and always wanting to be connected to nature, which is why, again, I loved this house in particular for myself, was that we literally sit on the garden in this room. So even in the evenings, we have garden lights and things that we have, and I just love to sit here and I feel connected directly to nature. And I don't know that I really thought about it before we lived in Scandinavia, and to hear people talking about it so much, it was like, yeah, they're right. And they'll bring in rocks and sticks and things that, you know, are imperfect, that come from nature. And they're always trying to bring that natural element into their homes, even if they were really modern and really sleek. And so I think that that's something that no matter what your style is, really looking to nature for inspiration and always trying to bring that nature into your home will always help you have that sort of connectedness to the earth. And again, this just feels so deep. It's like, but it really is true, isn't it? I think now with everything that's been happening in the world lately, so much of us, so many of the trends are moving towards a more natural look. And I think that's because we as humans crave nature. And when we can bring it into our homes, there's something very comforting about it. And there's something very authentic to us as humans. And we just need it. We just need it. I can honestly say that prior to moving to Scandinavia, it had never once occurred to me to paint a room white. So when I moved to Scandinavia, all of a sudden, all of my friends have white painted homes. It was like, what is happening here? And when you live in a dark place, you really do understand why they love to play all that darkness against white. They want to try to lighten their spaces. They want to feel that when light comes in, that it's reflected throughout their space. And I think that white is just, it's a tool that you can always have in your bag, and you get to choose when to pull it out, when to leave it in the bag, and maybe play with all the different varieties that it offers you. It really can be very exciting to use white, and there's a purity that it brings to your space. It can be very interesting, especially if you layer lots of textures on top of it, and the things that you put together with it are really what either makes it feel empty and soulless, which I hear so many people say, or it can be the most alive and warm and inviting thing in the entire world. And it's really all about how you use that tool in your space and how you put everything together to create a space that really reflects back not only light, but also you. I really appreciated and learned how to love cloudy days while we lived in Scandinavia, which is very good because the majority of the days were definitely cloudy. I love the diffused light. It's something that I talk about a lot with my clients. It's something that's really important to me. I love how the clouds diffuse light and how that changes the way that a space feels and how it adds this sort of moodiness to everything. So how does that apply to design and when you're decorating your house? Well, I think that there's something to be said for appreciating when things aren't so bright. And I really learned to appreciate soft, muted colors, and it's because I would see everything through that smoky, cloudy lens that I really started to see color in a different way. maybe you'll come out of this saying, no, actually, what I really love is for my colors to be as bright as they can be. I want them to be sharp, as high contrast as possible. But either way, I think it's such a great conversation and a way of discovering what you really love in your home. So to think through whether your colors, you really love them diffused, or whether you really like full on light and full on sun and where all the color is really revealed. I can't wait to hear your comments. I hope you'll write down in the comments and let me know which one you like the most. Do you like a moody, kind of washed out palette, or do you want as much sun as possible? Let me know down in the comments. One of the things that I think Scandinavians do so well, and that they are not the only ones that do it, I know, because so much of Europe is very historical. We have areas in the US and all around the world that are all historical areas, and there's always somebody who wants to bring some modernness into it. And I liked the way that the Danish people, because we were living in Denmark, and Scandinavians in general, the way that they keep so much of the historical aspect of the homes that are there, and they really try to save as much as they can. But then they like to put this twist on it, this modern twist on it, that I think when those two things are juxtaposed, that's where I just find myself. If I go way too modern or way too historical, I just end up feeling lost in either one of them. And so for me, myself, and what you'll probably see every time I design a space and the things that we talk about on this channel is I'm always trying to combine those things, something that has something from the past, but also brings something from the future and of this moment. That's all modern is, right? It's whatever is happening in the moment right now. And when you bring those two together, you have this amazing story that you tell in your space, and there's a space-time continuum. Oh, I know, another Back to the Future reference. Sorry, it's my favorite movie. I love it. But I just love that continuum of life, and that there's something always coming from here, now, into the future. And I really love to do that in every space that I do. So you'll a lot of times see maybe there'll be something really modern, and then there'll be an older piece, a bust a lot of times, or vintage books sitting on a very modern piece of furniture. And I just really think that that mix makes it so interesting. You guys can let me know down in the comments if you feel the same way. Do you like the mix, or do you find yourself leaning all to new or all to old? It really is such an interesting thing, and it's something that you can really play with in your space and in your home and in your life. It really is just, the exploration of it is really, that to me, that's where the real fun is, and really nailing your style and who you are. It's really fun, don't you think? I think that it's a lot of fun to look at your space and look at your life and to design the life that you want, and then the space around it. And I think that will help you make so many decisions in your life and in your home. Because if you start there, it makes everything easier. If you say, I love to be surrounded by all these cozy things, and then you're looking at minimal rooms that have 3 things in them and they're not super cozy, it's a little bit easier to say that space is not going to be what I want it to be. I've made a Scandinavian playlist for you, so it'll make it a little bit easier for you to be able to find all the videos specifically about Scandinavian design. But don't forget that you can also order the videos by the oldest to the newest. And when you go to the oldest ones, you're gonna actually see when we lived in Scandinavia and how this channel actually started over there. So I'll leave the links down below for you. Go check it out. And cheers. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Indiana Rose.
I don't even know what to say. This is the biggest ice cream ever. This is from Ludolf's. This is the biggest ice cream you'll get in Copenhagen, maybe even the world, quite possibly. You guys have to come help me. Marzipan! He hit the marzipan face.